today we are talking about contact mode. It is time to start. So you can imagine the proverbial theatrical curtains like opening up, and here I am on the stage in front of you. This is the start of the official presentation. And we are talking about contact mode, which I came to love. Contact mode is like, it seems like it's an entry-level thing. But with the versatility of the Spooky2 system and the fact that contact is actually quite powerful, second only to plasma, it's worthwhile thinking about contact mode as something which can be included into your own practice. All right, so let's start from the very basics. What actually is contact mode? It can be roughly defined as when we put frequencies from the Spooky2 generators from the database applied to the body via contact electrodes, 2 of them. You don't have more than your 2 electrodes or more than 1 generator working on your body when using contact mode with Spooky2. You can do that with a Hiwi microgen, but you can't do that when using Spooky2 generators. So there's a distinction between how you might use Hiwi microgen and how you might use Spooky2 generators themselves. But contact is very broad, and it can be used with pretty much all of it within reason. So it's a good method. So if you're dealing with one thing or dealing with another, or you want a particular effect or another effect, you can get that. So how powerful is contact? When we're discussing the entrainment or healing effect, which is when we put a frequency into the body to bring an organ or a system up to its natural frequency, which it should be at, or we're dealing with pathogen control, contact is brilliant. Okay, it's very useful. It's pretty immediate in terms of its effect and method of delivery. But you know, these different methods of delivery have their own benefits. Plasma is like the nuclear killer of all kinds of things, okay? Contact is the electrocution by frequency of all kinds of things, as well as entrainment and healing. Then there's remotes, which is milder, more long-term, trickle feeds your body, keeps you topped up, and then imprinted holographic stickers. So people value the remotes, but they also value the imprinted holographic stickers, even though that's less powerful than the remotes. Scalar, on the other hand, does operate on a body in a different way, which seems to provide a nourishing, healing field to the body, which is great for tissue repair and healing, but you can also put the Rife frequencies as well as molecular and audio and an awful lot more through the scalar field to do your energy field some good and to bring about a bit more balance. But let's focus just on contact, which is an important part of our arsenal and the way in which we do Spooky2. So here's a short list of some of the things which you can actually do directly with contacts. So nothing else. We're not talking about the addition of the remotes or plasma or anything. Detoxification, molecular weight frequencies, namely the emulation of drug effects, which is in the Spooky2 database with the suffix MW. Then there's the essential oil frequencies, color frequencies. All the wonderful things from the DH experimental presets can also be run on contact as well. And of course, entrainment to help heal an organ or system, run pathogen control, do some biofeedback to get some more accurate frequencies for what your body requires for pathogen control, and an awful lot more. It's very, very versatile. Just a pair of TENS pads or a set of hand cylinders, you can actually do an awful lot, which can actually affect your body. You can feel it, you can see it, and it will be good for you. As I say, different types of contact accessories, your hand cylinders, your TENS pad, the conductive fabric sleeves for the arms and the legs, the gloves and the socks, and also the internal electrode, which is used anally or vaginally for specific things, but do follow the instructions so that you understand how internal electrode is used, so you don't get any bad effects. Now with Spooky2, you can use different sizes of TENS pad. There's the regular little small square ones, and then there's like the longer rectangular ones. The standard smaller ones are still great. I've had some amazing experiences just with those. But with the larger ones, it tends to put more power through the body. So you have to work out for your particular process whether you need more power or whether you need less power, and how comfortable your body feels when you're using the different types of TENS pads. The small ones are very convenient, shove them in your pocket when traveling, whatever. But if you're trying to work on pathogen control, you've already done your biofeedback, maybe with a small TENS pads, you can then do much more pathogen control through delivering the contact frequencies using the larger TENS pads. So having both on hand can be a very useful thing to do. You can still run biofeedback both with Generator X and the XM generator and pulse units with the large and small TENS pads as well. Okay, now let's think about the hardware. Spooky2 works on a Windows-based computer. I recommend getting cheap refurbished laptops off eBay, which is wonderful. I've got 2 of them running in my bedroom, running various things right now. But if you want to use, let's say, a USB bar, which will have, let's say, 10 USBs on it so that you can have more things running, you'll probably need a more powerful computer like a gaming computer, which will be much more useful to handle the quantity of data that's necessary to get the frequencies loaded up to your XMs and your Generator X or Generator X Pro. You'll also need the boost unit, which is the small black device with many outputs sticking out of it. A TENS cable, which is the cable with a BNC socket, as well as the red and black cables coming out of it, and the TENS needles. A little tip is that the TENS needles will fit nearly any variety of TENS pad you can buy on the market, and Spooky2 has done that by design, so we can always get access to treatment. And of course, your chosen delivery method. Okay. So here's an image of all of the peripherals, the output peripherals for contact mode. Bottom right, you've got the internal electrode. To the right-hand side, large TENS pads. Then, of course, you've got the selection of socks and gloves and the bands that go around your arms and legs. You've got the TENS cable. On the left-hand side at the top, you can see the boost unit itself, hand cylinders, and, of course, the 2 main different types of frequency generator that we tend to use with Spooky2. One of the greatest benefits of Contact is the ease of setting up both the hardware and the software. With the hardware, you plug your TENS cable into your boost unit, you plug your boost unit into your generator, and then you put your peripherals on the end of your TENS cable. It's pretty simple. You plug the TENS cable into the high power port for most contact sessions. But if the frequencies are rather low that you're working at, or you do occasionally get a bit of a shock, then use the colloidal silver socket for milder treatments. If very necessary and you're getting too much electrical effect because you're personally rather sensitive to it, you can go back into the settings page and even change the voltage going through the system if you want. Then just attach your contact accessories to the TENS cable needles, and that's it. Your hardware point of view setup is done. But now let's think about software and how the software is set out. At the bottom of this image, you'll see that there's an image of the top of the software, right? The top of the software page. Presets, programs, settings, and control. These are various different tabs that we work on, and we work on them from left to right. Okay, go to the presets first, then programs if necessary, then settings if necessary, then control. Overwrite, select generator, and click start. So the software has been designed to try and make our thought processes a little easier when going through the process of getting the technology working for us. We have these things called shells, and the word shell comes up rather a lot in Spooky2 language. What it means is it adjusts the settings page for you so you don't have to think about all that complex stuff. Okay, and I think the word comes from the history of rifing, which is just a way of saying we've done, the settings for you. This is what we're going to do to create our healing, create our pathogen killing, and this is what we think is the best way of doing it for that method of delivery. So if you wanted to run a database program, which you searched for in the Programs tab, you'll have to start on the Presets tab, and you'll have to select Shell, as I've shown you on the screen here. Shell empty presets. Why would you do that? Because you want to be able to select the method of delivery and its purpose. So once you've selected shell empty presets, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, all right, which on my software has come out in a blue address because I changed the skin on the software so it can stand up better. And then you can just select on contact because that's the method of delivery you're using. So once you've selected shell empty presets, you can then choose from that menu what your method of delivery is first. Okay, you're using contact, shell empty presets, click contact. Now, the next page, which you'll be taken to after you've clicked on contact, will look a bit, oh my word, there's too much stuff there. But let's be honest, if you go to a bicycle shop and you buy yourself a mountain bike that's got loads of gears and you're really, really happy it's got loads of gears, in practice, are you going to use all of them? Probably not. This technology, this software has been designed not only for normal people like you and me who want to improve wellness, but also for people who want to experiment more. So for most basic work, you'll only need to use healing CJW, killing CJW, and MW emulate CJW. These are the ones which I use most frequently, and therefore they are good. The other ones you can experiment with. If you are dealing directly with essential oils, then you can use the essential oils and essential oil harmonics. If you're trying to attack things based upon their DNA, and you're taking something from the DNA database, you can use the DNA shell in much the same way as we are doing today with this particular demonstration in this PowerPoint of contact work. So once you've clicked on the shell, it'll become highlighted in blue in this presets tab. The address at the top, you'll see, which I've underlined in red, has changed. And it's changed to accept the fact that the shell has now been loaded up, which means that the settings page is now adjusted. We don't have to worry about that too much. So this is why I've created this cool phrase, which I hope everyone's going to start using. You know, when it's highlighted in blue, the settings page has been adjusted for you. Makes sense and it rhymes, but that's for your presets page, your presets tab. Does that make sense? Hopefully so. So then, as you can see on the image on the right-hand side, you can then just select programs. And then you get your list of programs. You've got a search box. You can search for nearly anything. Now, I have had a history of mold in the chest, mold infection, which ended up in my chest. And so sometimes, especially around about this time of the year, when like we're coming out of the winter, I've spent too much time indoors, there's not been enough fresh air going into my lungs, I've probably got some mold going on. So I might want to do a few sessions morning and evening for a few weeks of mold. So I would then do a search for it, probably the American spelling there, because I think in England we would spell that with M-O-U-L-D, but it's actually spelled M-O-L-D. So if you're struggling to find things using the search facility in the Programs tab, change the spelling and see what turns up. And then scroll down to try and find the one that you want. Then all you have to do is double click on the thing you want, and it will appear in the loaded programs box below. As you can see at the bottom of the screen on the right-hand side, Mold's General Alternative Set, ETDF, has been loaded up. Then we can go onto the settings page if you want. For many cases, you don't have to. Why? Because we've already clicked on the shell, which has already adjusted most of the settings for you. But there may be one or two other ones that's worthwhile playing with if you require. You can reduce amplitude at the bottom of the screen, which will make it less harsh for lower frequencies. So if you're using some very traditional database programs, which require low frequencies, clicking on reduce amplitude, making sure that checkbox is ticked, will make it a little bit easier. It's often good with contact mode to click on ramp up, which means that when the chain or the frequency set moves from one frequency to another, you don't get a sudden jolt. Instead, you get a slow, steady increase, and you can feel this in your body if it's a lower frequency. and it won't feel anywhere near as uncomfortable. Then there's the harmonic wobble section, which you've got that red arrow pointing to, which can be used to add things called feathers or wobbles. Now, a feathering is a gentle movement around the frequency itself in kind of like a sine wave to make sure you'll be attacking pathogens which are outside of that particular range. Adjusting harmonic wobble with things such as entrainment or healing would not be appropriate, and it would not be necessary because you're trying to entrain a specific healthy frequency to an organ, and it doesn't require that much in the way of variability. But when dealing with yeast, mold, funguses, candida, candidiasis, or indeed those horrible pathogens beginning with P that people often talk about, then it's worthwhile thinking about feathers or wobbles. I created an understanding through experimenting on my own body that feathering is good for microbes and wobbling is good for larger things, shall we call them, all right, which also begin with the letter W. This will make it easier for you to be able to hammer at the pathogen in a more effective way. But you will have to experiment, taking into account the reaction of your body, what you feel happening inside your body, and also, in some cases, what comes out in the toilet bowl as to which particular setting has been worthwhile for you. Hope that makes sense. All right, so once you've done that, it becomes quite simple. You click on the Control tab, and then there's 3 more bits of clicking you have to do on the basis that you've connected yourself to your contact equipment. Click Overwrite, select the generator box, and then click Start. So it's just 3 little steps there on the control panel page. Click Overwrite, click the generator, and then click Start. If you've got questions about this, feel free to add it into the Q&A section, and we'll have a look at that afterwards. All right, but there's a bit you click first, a bit you click second, and a bit you click third. And then you're essentially running the frequencies. Now, some people ask about, okay, so that's fine, but I want to try and get the best effect that I can for my body. Where do I put the contact pads? Most of my work, because I try and treat the whole body, because I've got whole body problems, is from the right wrist to the left ankle, not the other way around, not left wrist to right ankle, but right wrist to left ankle. This is the optimum configuration to try and get as much of the frequency throughout the whole body. I have had mold being killed off in my sinuses as a result of doing this particular method, so it does actually seem to be really effective. If you want to place 10 pads on other areas of the body, make sure you always treat below the neck line using contact method, including for biofeedbacks. You don't want to fry your thyroid, your eyes, or your brain with electricity which is going where it should not. In general, for more upper body work, you could just use hand cylinders in your left and right hands, or maybe right wrist to left wrist with contacts with TENS pads. But it is also possible to be a bit more specific, taking into account the condition that you've got. And the following slides will give you a basic illustration of some of the ways in which the current would flow for various different problems. Okay, you got your sciatica, your upper back, elbow, your hip and buttock. There's different ways of placing it there. Your knee, rear thigh, quadriceps, shoulder. Okay, abdominal region. If you've got calf pain, there's places to put it there. There's another region there where you can treat as well. For your shins, where the shin pain might be, and also for lower back. And the back issues is something I struggle with, so I'll probably be using that one particular illustration myself in the not too distant future. Now, these images are available online for you to research for yourself and go into and to practice with, taking into account whatever issues you've got. So let's try and focus a little bit more about pathogen control, which for me has been one of the most important things that Spooky has actually helped me with, both in terms of plasma and contacts, as well as to a certain degree, remote and other things. So we're going to go back a few tabs and have another look at the shells to see what we can do there. Don't allow the word shell to add more confusion to you. It has just come out of the ancient traditions of rifing, probably going way, way, way back to the pyramids or whatever. Well, back to the early days of rifing 100 years back. And of course, seems to refer to the settings page being done for you to achieve a specific purpose. Don't be afraid of the shells. They're there to make life easier for you. If my memory serves me correctly, in the very, very, very early days of Spooky, they didn't actually have shells. You would have to adjust everything yourself, including the waveform and so on and so forth. So to get the amplitude and the waveform sorted out specifically for the purpose, we can use the shells, which will just make life that little bit easier for us. Okay. The process of setting up Spooky2 to perform different functions by Contact is the same as I've already shown. But it all starts with the presets tab, and that's why the presets tab is so important. Different shells are for different things. DNA is for the DNA database frequencies. Essential oils are best for essential oil frequencies. The Generator X online and offline general is there purely for Generator X and therefore can't really be used for the XM generator. And it's useful to load up frequencies for standalone mode as well as regular running of programs, and it's pretty good. Golden ratio is for those who want to and need to experiment with that particular set of harmonics, and it has its own features and power. All right. Oops, let's go back a bit. The internal electrode shell is specifically for that, just the internal electrode, which I showed you on the earlier slides. MW emulate is only for the MW database. Substance shell can also be used with database MW frequencies. The universal square H-bomb is very good at killing because it adds extra pulses between the pulses. And it also has entrainment and healing capabilities, and therefore is a useful, kind of like multi-bladed knife for doing nearly anything. Some people prefer to exclusively use the universal H square bomb, from what I found out, but I myself tend to stick with the traditional traditional shells for Spooky2 usage. So always start with the presets tab. Always select the shell when running database programs. If you feel the need to change a few settings, you can do that on the settings page. The ones I've shown you are the ones you'll be more likely to want to shift yourself. Then quickly go to the control tab, click override generator, which has to be done first. Click on the icon of your generator, which is done second, and then just click start. And at that point, you're taking a treatment. That might seem daunting initially, but literally with a bit of practice, it's just like driving a car or riding a bike. You can start doing it quickly. And with the time that I've been doing it, I can set these things up pretty fast. And you'll be able to as well in no time, seriously. Don't be daunted, don't be afraid, don't be worried. The shells are there to make life easier for us. If you are unsure if any shell is right for you, select it and study the text that appears on the right-hand side of the screen in the presets tab, because that will tell you more about the shell, more about how to use it, and more about ways in which it could be beneficial to you. Okay, because the software itself becomes your instructor too. Now, what if that's getting a bit too difficult? So what if you can't get your head around the use of shells and all this stuff? Relax. There is an easier method, and that is the presets. And so now I'm going to talk to you about setting up presets. Many of them can be useful to you, and I've personally used the broad spectrum antibiotic presets to great effect in my early days. You can search for it the way it is shown in the illustration on the right-hand side. In the presets tab, type in antibiotic, and there it is. You've got the contact, 2 plasma, and 1 remote method of doing broad spectrum antibiotic. The first time I did that, I run that on Contact morning and evening for a week. And a lump of candida literally came out of my body. Whopping great white rubbery thing it was. And that showed me that, you know, that was a good proof that I spent my money wisely, because I wasn't doing any other herbs, no diatomaceous earth, I wasn't taking any caprylic acid, nothing which could actually kill off candida. I was only using the broad spectrum antibiotic Contact preset. So this stuff does seem to have some real power, and it can be very useful for all manners of rifing. So do plenty of searches there, see if there's anything there which suits you. Now, if we're in the presets tab, once you have selected it and it's highlighted in blue, the settings page has been adjusted for you. All right, that's for the presets tab. Once it's in the presets tab, then you've clicked on it and it's highlighted in blue, it's already set up for you. So then just snip straight to the control tab. No need to do programs, no need to do settings, straight to the control tab, and then do the same 3 steps, okay? Click override generator first, then your free generator, click that second, and then click start. And you can see here on the right-hand side, there's all the frequencies from the broad spectrum antibiotic Contact set. And that's just a half-hour treatment, and it's quite good. You can do that morning and evening for a couple of weeks and just see what happens if you're experimenting, if you're learning about contact mode, and if you're learning about whether this is going to be good for you. And you can see how your symptoms change and how your bowel habits change. And I'm often analyzing, you know, that aspect of of my well-being, because that teaches me what I'm achieving here. One great bit of news is that Spooky2 has thousands of presets, so there's going to be something there which can be useful to you. All right. These days, you can buy all kinds of like zappers, which purport to have so many frequencies in them. You've just got every single type of zapper on the face of the planet, every single means of delivering frequencies, and also to be able to design your own programs as well using Spooky2. So the versatility you've got, even with the most basic kits, is pretty amazing. Okay, now let's go back into the subject of detoxification. One moment, please. Right. One of the first steps before we start, as it were, proper serious rifing to tackle our pathogens is something called the terrain protocol. Now, it can be performed by all the methods of delivery that Spooky2 has to offer: contact, plasma, remote. Plasma is the most powerful, but contact is still pretty good. I personally find terrain run on contact more powerful than remote, and it really does kick out a lot of the muck. Of course, it requires dedication and discipline to use it right, but you guys are Spooky2 users and you're interested in health, so that's what you've already got. At the beginning of the presets page, you can click on, just to remind you, there's a little house symbol in the presets page. That takes you back to the beginning of the presets page. The 2 chevrons pointing upwards takes you to the previous page in the presets page. But if you go right back to the beginning, one of those little options there is detox. This page is great because it gives you things to help you, to make life easier, to give you an instruction as to how to do this. And that is that there is a guide, an all-important PDF, which tells you which particular presets and which particular things to use to run terrain, how long to run each part of the terrain for. And it just sets it out in step-by-step instructions. So that is something you will really need to have a look at and to read through. There's another PDF for the cancer protocol and another PDF for the Morgellons and Lyme protocol as well. And both the cancer protocol and the Morgellons and Lyme protocol have their own built-in form of terrain protocol. Now, in that PDF, you will see what's on the right-hand side of the screen here, which is a list of the days: 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, and so on and so forth, up to 11 days. And it tells you which particular presets to use for each stage if you're doing this on Contact. Terrain can be performed on between 2 and 4 generators. There are different timetables for each number of generators and delivery methods. Again, this is all in the PDF outlined for you, making it nice and easy. What you're seeing there on the right-hand side is the timetable from the PDF for the 2-generator method, which means that one generator is doing all of your contact work and another one is doing the detox support through running terrain on remote and also adding extra power to the contact work that you're doing, as well as to provide some frequencies between contact sessions. This method is ideal for those who have a generator X or 2 spare XM generators, which aren't being used up for anything else. The letter C in brackets is what denotes that this is a contact mode method. So C in brackets means contact, P in brackets means plasma, R in brackets means remote, and so on and so forth. SC would be scalar. So when you click on the method of delivery, contact, you'll see a lot of presets appear. These will be the ones used in the terrain protocol via contact. Again, the C in brackets denotes its contact method. And you can tell if you're on the right page because you'll have all the C's in brackets there. Don't use them in the order that they are in the detox folder of the presets tab. Follow the timetable in the PDF because that's the way that works. Does that make sense? Hope it does. But also, if you're at a different stage in your healing process and you just need one of these things to try and help you out, let's say kidneys or kidney and liver functions, lymphatic system, you could just try experimenting to see whether that can help you. I personally would recommend running through the full terrain first and then going back onto more specific things that seem to float your boat. I'm sure that other experimenters might spend more days on various different stages, taking into account what's wrong with them and what they need to work on. Okay, so let's have a very quick look at cancer and Morgellons and Lyme, because yes, you can do these by contacts. If you haven't yet got yourself your plasma, you haven't yet bought yourself your Spooky Central, which would of course provide more power for yourself. If your illness is very serious, you do need more serious equipment to work with it. Okay, if you're starting out and you want to experiment to see what contact can do for you, start with contacts and see if there's an improvement. And then if there is or if there isn't, then you might want to upgrade to go towards Spooky Central. But yes, once again, as I've said, you've got a wonderful guide there which tells you about how to use the contact method for the DB cancer protocol. This is not the DB early version. This is the ordinary DB method, which is the one that most of us trust. So in the presets for Morgellons and Lyme, in the presets tab, you can click on Morgellons and Lyme and then Morgellons and Lyme 3. And then you'll see once again, the PDF is provided. Just like with terrain, just like with the cancer protocol, it's there, the information is there for you to research, refer back to, read from, and to follow a timetable so that you can then bring yourself to a better state of wellness. All good stuff. So is there any like rules or guidelines to make contact more effective? Basically, yeah, there is. Fit into contact sessions of your chosen treatment each day. Now, if you were to have a look at the cancer protocol or the Morgellons and Lyme protocol, you will see that there will be a chain of about maybe 4 hours. And that chain of 4 hours will be repeated twice overnight. And that's because fitting in 2 contact sessions within each 24-hour period is a good way of doing things to make sure you're doing as much good against the forces of darkness inside your body as you possibly can. Same treatments on remotes between your contact sessions helps to reduce the pathogens from doubling time and increasing and spreading inside the body between your contact sessions. So the use of your remotes on top of your contact method could be a very important addition to your therapy. One of the greatest things about contact, especially for people who are blessed enough to work from home and have a Windows computer that they work on, or indeed if you work in an office and have some very understanding bosses, you can run your sessions via contact whilst you're working. You can also run treatments overnight. But as the frequencies can be a bit low and therefore might create some muscle shaking, it might be better to do these things during the daytime, morning and evening, or maybe during your working time if you're working from home. Generator X biofeedback results become a great thing to run on contact mode overnight, as the frequencies are too high for you to feel, and you still get a very good quantity of therapy when doing it. I've tried that before. It's very beneficial. So that's something else to be aware of. I mean, some people find it difficult to sleep running Spooky Central at night, so they might opt for whole body, right wrist to left ankle, contact mode for Generator X biofeedback results, but not specifically database programs if they're a bit low. Now, Spooky2 has worked really, really hard for us and has created probably the largest database of existing frequency sets, which is out there like in the world as far as I can tell. I don't know if that's a 100% accurate statement. It just seems to be. We've got tons of stuff there. Spooky2 Contact Mode can be used with all manner of ideas that come out of the world of complementary health. And it will be a useful tool in your armory against energy imbalance and for the purposes of increasing wellness, maybe on top of other things you're doing with, I don't know, raw veganism, juice fasting, Gerson therapy, and anything else. And now we're going to go straight on to the Q&A and see what's coming through. Here we go. All right, starting with the Q&A box, and then we'll go on to the chat box afterwards. Okay, Joan says, you're thinking about the Spooky2 Generator X Pro. Definitely recommend it. I mean, having lots of XM generators around for various things is good. I'm running 3 remotes on my desk at the moment from XM generators. I'm running my Generator X in my bedroom, which also has a remote on it. The Generator X is a very good biofeedback machine. And it also delivers things like molecular weight emulations with a bit more power than you would be able to get otherwise just through the XM generator. Right, Sharon says, which method of contact produces the best transmission? Bars, TENS pads, or wristbands? I feel some frequencies strongly with the bars, a little less with the TENS pads, and not at all with the wristbands, using the same program of frequencies. Okay, well, partially that's due to surface area and how efficiently the contact surface is allowing the current to get into your body. Large TENS pads are probably the best. The hand cylinders that you call the bars, they are pretty good, but sometimes you will feel better off doing the treatment in a different way. And sometimes I personally just change up the method of delivery of contact just to see what happens. I don't think we can say that one is necessarily better than another, because it depends upon what you're working on and how much power you need for those things, as well as to keep any jolting, to the minimum. Does terrain address glyphosate? Right, well, I can have a quick look at my Spooky and see if terrain. So we're going to go to the detox folder. I'm not too sure if it does actually. But if you're, but the whole thing about terrain is it prepares the landscape for further healing. It prepares the landscape for being able to get rid of other problems which is inside your body. So running terrain an awful lot will not only open up your pathways of detoxification, but if there is glyphosate in your body and you're living a very pure life, your body will probably get rid of it, in my opinion. If you can find the glyphosate compounds within the database, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to use MW remove in order to try and help that, provided, of course, it is a molecular weight frequency. Where do I find the DH experimental presets? Okay, when you download the software for the first time, you'll be given an option as to what you want to download. So I'd select everything. A good thing for you to do would be to download Spooky again from the beginning, and then you'll be given the option to do the DH presets along with everything else. I wanted everything in my software, so I clicked everything because I wanted to have freedom of choice between all the various fun things it provides. When would you use a universal H-bomb? Whenever. It's good for entrainment and healing, and it's good for pathogen control, and some people just prefer it. So it's literally whenever. It's a multi-bladed knife. You can use that whenever you want for any form of contact work. But some people will find it better one way than another. Another thing I'll point out is that the healing shell, the contact healing shell, will also kill pathogens, but its waveform is being chosen so that it is very targeted at that frequency, whereas the killing shell has got much more of an ability to create more harmonics outside of the frequency range, and therefore could have its own extra power to be able to do more things and hurt more pathogens. But people who have kidney problems should not use the killing contact shell. They should be using the healing shell, even if it is about pathogen killing. Okay. Lauren says, instead of choosing a specific program, would it be a good idea if we do only scans to cure support what is most necessary? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes your biofeedback results will pick up what it's going to pick up, the things that shout the loudest. If you've got an infection you're trying to get rid of, but that's not shouting the loudest, will your biofeedback get it? For me, I occasionally do biofeedbacks with 80 frequencies because I adjust the settings so that I can get 80 hits, so I can get as deep into the problem as I can. But other times I require more work specifically targeted. So what I might do would be a grade scan of all of the existing database frequencies. After I finish that, save it, and then run refined programs on that to try and get more accurate numbers. If I'm trying to do specifically targeted work, like, okay, today it's just about candida albicans, rather than, let's say, mold, fungus, yeast, pathogens beginning with P. Okay, can you show where you plug the TENS pads into the black unit? I haven't actually got a freely available boost unit of, oh, hang on. I've got an old broken boost unit I can show you. Just bear with me a second. Ugh. Right. Let's take this off here. Right. Oh, sugar. It's plugged into something else. It's always the way. Right, here we go. Right, here we go. Hopefully you can see me on the little screen. Okay. This is it's a perfectly functioning boost unit. But the black plastic is broken off it because something fell on it. That was my own silly fault. And if I can just get this extra attachment removed, there we go. Right, okay. So that's your boost unit. Your high power port and your colloidal silver is one of these two. And it'll be labeled down there which one is which, okay? So it's your high power and colloidal silver is these two here, with high power being that one, I think, and colloidal silver being that one. No, high power is that one, colloidal silver is that one. But look at the words on the remote itself, on the boost itself, and that will tell you. Next question. Running preset terrain or detox program on Generator X Pro. I cannot keep the program going before generator error kicks in. Right, that sounds like a contact or connection issue. So you could just have bad USB sockets on your computer. You might want to think about changing up your USB sockets, or investing in a new laptop would be a good possibility for you. I know that means more money going out, but sometimes we have to do that. I mean, I tend to, because I work from home, I tend to get through a desktop computer every 3 or 4 years, and I can get through laptops every about 2 or 3 years sometimes. It's just part of the process. And that's why very cheap refurbished laptops on eBay is a good way of doing things. How do you know what generator button to use? Okay, well, in the software, if I can just stop share for the moment, and I can share screen, bring that up. Oh, there we go, share. Right. Now, can you see my Spooky? Hopefully you can. There's a utils button on the utils drop-down menu at the top there. And you can use identify generators, which is the first option down there. And it'll show you stuff. Identify USB devices will give you a number on the generator itself as to which is which. Your generator X will tell you which one is port 4, port 5, whatever. Those ports are essentially the generator boxes in your control tab. All right. Can you please tell me if Spooky2 is effective in eradicating HSV2 virus, and if so, would contact or plasma be most effective? Right, if you got a virus, and the virus is throughout the whole body, you can get a lot of progress with contact mode, yes. You would probably be better off with plasma and definitely doing an awful lot of scanning, including based upon grade scan of that one particular virus, and then refine programs as well if you can do that. Okay. May we have a copy of your notes? Thank you. This whole presentation is being recorded, and it will be saved somewhere by Spooky, and will probably appear on the YouTube channel and possibly also on the Facebook group as well. So it's going to be out there. You can see the whole thing and sit down with a nice cup of coffee and pay attention to the whole presentation in your own time. All right. Do I do killing or healing for the DNA frequencies? No, you do DNA for the DNA frequencies, because that's going to go specifically targeted for that one particular problem. It adjusts the settings page for you specifically for the DNA stuff. Are we able to program frequency sounds into the Rife, or is there a shell already available with those sounds? Right, so I think you're confusing audio with the audio frequencies, which many people get lots of benefit from, with what we're talking about when using things like Contact. There is a Spooky audio device, a little round thing which you can put under your pillow or hold by your ear. Or if you're that appropriately minded, I'm sure you can rig up a speaker to go to your output and then adjust the amplitude so that the voltage doesn't blow your speaker up. And then that will essentially do it, provided, of course, the frequencies you're using are in the audio range, or you've used the audio shell to try and get a closest approximation through harmony in an audio format. All right, my control tab doesn't show a third pink option. Okay, well, the image I showed you of the control tab was for when I've got 3 generators plugged in prior to booting up the software. Plugged in and turned on prior to booting up the software. The 2 green generator boxes were running. The red generator box wasn't running. So you got to make sure that your software is picking up the fact that the generator is connected to the computer. So you plug your generator in, okay? Then you boot up your software, and then you'll have the options in your control page on the basis your USB sockets are working fine. Yeah, this one here says, bit confused as candida is not a bacteria and antibiotics are usually just to treat bacteria. Yeah, candida is not a bacteria. Yeah, I know, but this full spectrum antibiotic stuff just seems to do things. It's not an antibiotic. It's just a frequency set which is supposed to cover like the top 10 most popular hits in the human body. And there may be some harmonics of that, which was good in knocking out that rubbery rubbish from my body. So it's fun to play with, and you just have to see what happens when you run it yourself. When using contact treatments, how long do you need to stay put? Half an hour max? No. Depends upon how long the program is. I've done some contact sessions that were very long. I mean, if you're running terrain, you're having your contact for many hours. Okay, you got a whole chain of frequency sets you're running, and you're sitting there for a few hours. Yeah. It depends upon what the treatment is. I don't think there is a maximum. You have to listen to your body all the time. We're doing this from the complementary health way and treating ourselves bit by bit. I'm treating for leukemia. Do you run detox at the same time? There would be nothing wrong, in my opinion, with having one generator running terrain or detox frequencies running in the background. And in fact, it is very common when rifing with Spooky2 to use one generator for your treatment and another one for your detox. So yes, you can run a remote running the detox frequencies at the same time as you are treating and killing off your leukemia based upon your protocol, your grade scans, your refined programs on Generator X. Okay. How far does it broadcast? Contact is contact. You've got to be connected to the machine. Remote, you can be anywhere on the face of the planet or even probably somewhere in space as far as I know. Okay, but contact is contact. You've got to be connected to your machine. With plasma, you've got something called near field, which is only within the first like 6 centimeters or 6 inches of the actual tube itself, which is most powerful. And then there's far field, which is like everything else. And of course, the further away you are, the weaker it'll be. So the closer you are, the better. But I have had some good pathogen killing, which I have felt in my body from 6 foot away using plasma. That was a fact. So that was weird, and it happened. Right, the next one says, should I run all the frequencies for the problem consecutively? Basically, yeah. If you've done a biofeedback and you've got a program now with lots of frequencies in it, you run them. You run it one at a time. You run the whole frequency set. And you do that twice a day, every day. And you add your extra biofeedbacks and with a passage of time. May I do contact mode and PEMF from the Generator X at the same time? Easily. With PEMF, you can do lots of PEMF, have lots of them all over your body doing various things. But PEMF is very targeted to where the coil actually is. But you can do that as well as doing contacts using Generator X. I don't see a problem with that. But you can't have 2 contact generators running on your body at the same time because you'll short them out. For terrain detox, which requires 11 days running, how do we run contact, which requires TENS pads? Well, you set it up the way in which I've described, and you follow the protocol. The PDF will be in the software, and that will tell you which days to run which particular frequency sets on. The letter L stands for laser or cold laser. SS would be spooky scalar, and SC would be spooky central. S can be for scalar, C for contact. For the right wrist left ankle placement method described, does the TENS pad go on the inner or outer part of the ankle? Whatever's most comfortable, but I would do it on the outside to try and get more frequency throughout the whole body. You don't want to miss out any areas. So try and have it on the outside, not on the bone, not on sensitive or broken skin. Use your common sense there, okay? But yes, it can be done. Okay, what do the letters EV, JW, and others stand for? These are the initial letters of the people who created them. So JW is the amazing John White. All right. I'd like to run hunt and kill at night, but laptop is so bright and it seems to keep me awake. Understandable. What I did was I bought myself a sheet of red plastic, which is called rubylith. And I think these things are used by astronomers who want to use their laptops outside when they're stargazing, so the lights from the screen doesn't affect their night vision. But if you cover the screen with that red plastic, that will reduce the blue light and it will turn your computer screen into a nice high-tech nightlight for you. And you'll then be able to get a good night's sleep, as experience suggests. It's a good method, it can work. You can buy rubylith off Amazon, off eBay, or anywhere, just like red plastic, red see-through plastic sheeting. Okay, can I discuss the feathering and harmonic techniques again? Right, well, sometimes you can be running your frequency sets for, let's say, your pathogens beginning with P, okay? And you're not quite getting there. You're not quite getting the actual results. So these things can move around, they can squirm, they can change their shape. I don't know whether you saw the Harry Potter movies and saw the snake which Voldemort had being zapped, and it squirms and it wiggles and trying to change its shape. So it's changing its own natural resonant frequency so it wouldn't be killed by the spell that Harry Potter or whoever it was casting. This is very similar because these pathogens beginning with P can change their shape and form. So if you added a wobble, all right, instead of just, if you had a feathering, it's a nice gentle sine wave either side of the frequency. If you add wobbling, it's jolted. And because of that, I don't think your pathogens beginning with P can actually cope with that. And I felt something dying in my foot at one time when I was using the Fibonacci wobble. So that was an interesting experience. But I prefer to think about feathering as being designed much better for microbes such as candida, mold, yeast, and other things, and possibly viruses too. And the harmonic wobbles is much more for bigger, more scary things that have a certain quantity of intelligence about them and can wriggle away from that particular frequency you're trying to use to attack them. Experiment with it, play with it, and watch what your body is telling you, okay? Okay, what is the difference between shell and presets? Presets require very little work. You select them, they're highlighted in blue, you go straight to the control page, then click overwrite, click your generator, click start. Okay, that's your presets. With the word shell means there is a program in the database and I want to run it on, in this case, Contact. So I've got to have the amplitude, namely the voltage, and the waveform adjusted for the purpose. So I would then choose shell, and I would then choose contact. And I'd then choose one of those contact shells, such as healing or killing, JW, for the purposes of doing my work. Then I go to the programs tab. I do a search for the programs I want. I then add them into a chain in the lower box, which is called loaded programs. And then I would go to control tab, then overwrite, click the generator, click start. Right. Is it an advantage with contact mode from the generator X as opposed to the central contact mode? Okay, now you're confusing the method of contact which comes out of Spooky Central, which has been designed to put a very high voltage of a minuscule microsecond duration through the body at a fixed frequency. The purpose of this is to weaken the defenses of your disease so that the plasma can then get in. The contact mode on Spooky Central is not really designed to carry the frequencies from your generator, but it is designed to create the environment whereby plasma will be more effective in attacking your illness. So the contact mode from the GX, from the Generator X or Generator X Pro, is more your specific database program being delivered to your body via whichever means it is. But the contact method which comes out of the Spooky Central is there to make plasma more effective. Can I use contact on a dog? Yes, you can. Some people would attach them to the paws or some shaved areas of the skin. I would go for very low voltage if you could, because like the dog is a very small creature. I would use smaller TENS pads, and I would probably use the colloidal silver ports. I personally have not experimented with veterinary myself, but there is a group somewhere on Facebook for Spooky2 for pets. And I think people also use that for things like for equine and all that kind of cool stuff. Yes, this video will be available afterwards. How long do you need to apply molecular weight frequencies? There's a bit of a debate with this, as far as I can tell, because none of us are 100% sure. There are some people who say that you can run a molecular weight frequency just for 3 minutes in the morning, and then you'll have some of the energy of that going around your system throughout the rest of the day. Other people think you need to apply it for a longer period of time. I know that, it is a bit of a scary idea to think you're putting the frequency of a drug through your body, and therefore you're concerned about overdose or indeed not having an effective enough treatment. But you do have to experiment yourself and see what works. Maybe start slow and work up and see how your body reacts, because you have to be, to a certain extent, your own alternative health doctor if you're using your own alternative health equipment. And that means a certain quantity of experimentation. If I were to treat allergies such as hay fever, where should I place the contacts? I would actually go right wrist to left ankle, because the cause of whatever the hay fever is would probably not just be specifically in your sinuses, but also your sinuses will get some benefit from it, because I've killed off things inside my sinuses going right wrist to left ankle with TENS pads. I have tinnitus running in my ears. Where's the best place to put the TENS pads? Okay, left to right shoulder, below the neckline, but left to right shoulder, definitely below the neckline. Start with colloidal silver ports and go on to high power on the basis that you're handling colloidal silver port first. What would be the best method for someone that's went 3 years undiagnosed with Lyme? Depends upon how serious your Lyme is. You could run the Morgellons and Lyme protocol on plasma, and that would be very beneficial. Spooky Central could be probably the best thing for people who have serious cases of Lyme disease, whole body parasite infestations, and all that other fun stuff, because it is good. However, you could do a method of biofeedback in which you're just getting as many frequencies as you can from your biofeedback and treating with that. I don't think I could regard myself as an expert on Lyme, but essentially the methods of treatment remains the same. You would require biofeedbacks, you'll require a grade scan, you'll require refined programs, and you'll require the original, the protocols themselves. But this does take some working out as to which one is best for you. Some people have just exclusively treated with biofeedbacks using the XM generator and pulse, from what I recall, and have had very good results on the basis they did biofeedback every day. But biofeedback with pulse and using the XM generator can take a long time, and you have to be very, very still to do it. And that's why Generator X biofeedback is an awful lot more convenient. And you could sit down and read a book whilst you're taking your biofeedback. I'm frequently reading spiritual texts when I'm doing my biofeedback themselves. Can you put the contacts on biceps and shoulder muscles? Yes, you'll have to see how that will affect where the problem is. If you remember the illustrations that I showed you about TENS pad placement, yeah, it'll work for that. See how your body reacts to it, taking into account the frequencies you're putting through. I would be inclined to do higher frequencies, especially if your biceps are well developed, because otherwise, your shot could be a bit like a workout. Do I use grade scans? Usually. I frequently use grade scans and refined programs. Can you use grade scans for healing treatments, also like glaucoma and osteoporosis? Right, well, when we're talking about healing, what we're talking about is entraining a healthy frequency within an organ. If you're doing your biofeedback, it will find things which are wrong. So So the question then is, would biofeedback find things which are structurally wrong in an injured part of the body? I suppose possibly, but I would not add feathering or wobbles. However, for something that requires healing as opposed to pathogen killing, it might be more worthwhile. What am I saying? It might be more worthwhile using standard database programs for healing purposes. Now, if your glaucoma or your osteoporosis is caused by a pathogen, then you'll want to do killing. So therefore biofeedback, grade scanning and refined programs would help. However, if your health in general is not very good, it might be worthwhile using biofeedbacks to increase the general well-being of the body, cutting down the things inside it which is causing more disease, in order to try and assist with the healing work you're doing with healing shells. So you might have to use more equipment to try and tackle the problem from as many different angles as you can. Right, Generator X as a zapper. Well, that's basically contact mode, isn't it? And there are zapper traditional like Halder-Clark zapper frequencies within the database. So you can just do that. You can just use it. It's in the presets. It's in the presets tab, and you can use the search bar in the presets tab and just type the word zap, Z-A-P, into it. Press enter, and that will bring up all of the zapper frequencies. So you can treat with that. Hand cylinders, TENS pads, whatever you prefer. But but when that happens, you might possibly get a burn because of the frequencies of the zapping. It's good to use hand cylinders for that sort of thing. What are the DH frequencies? The DH experimental frequencies, I understand, were gained via dowsing and similar methods, and focused more on the energetic stuff, the meridians, the colors, and all that kind of stuff. Can you give pathway for medication as well as water entrainment? Can you entrain water with cylinders, both of them? Okay, a method which has been done successfully by some people is to take a glass jar and place the TENS pads on either side of the outside of the glass jar. Then you fill the jar full of water, which would ideally be distilled and then structured on the magnetic stirrer, and possibly with some colloidal silver put into it in order to keep it fresh. And then you can build up the entrainments in that and just keep the thing running on a contact shell on a continuous loop through adjusting the settings at the bottom of the control page, which says, what does it say? Let me just get myself back onto my software, and then we can have a look at that. Click share, there we go. Right, so we're looking not on settings, but on control. Right. When you've got something selected at the bottom, you can, no, it's not control, it's settings, isn't it? Shit, silly me. No, programs. There, that's what I'm looking for. At the bottom of programs, you'll see repeat chain. Okay, so you set up your program, you set repeat chain to 0, and that will keep it looping. And that's for remote or contact or plasma or anything. All right, so it's the bottom of the programs page, repeat chain, set that to 0 and that'll loop it. And you keep that running on a loop until such time as everything is done. So that could be many hours, overnight, whatever it is you prefer. All right. Can you run over the settings that improve UTI programs like feathering and wobble? Well, feathering and wobble is used when you're tackling pathogens and you don't think you've quite got the right targeted frequency to shoot them in the head. So your feathering will try and get some of the worms either side of the frequency, or the pathogens or whatever it is you've got either side of the frequency. But if you're doing wobbling, it goes in a jerky way so that things which would otherwise squiggle and get away from the frequency just can't. If I want to treat presbyopia, I don't know what that is. So I don't know where to place the contacts, but if it's a whole body problem, right wrist, left ankle. What's the best way of regularly updating the Spooky2 software? Whenever they come out with a new one, update it. Download it, install it, and it'll install them right over your existing one, and you probably keep your existing programs and the rest, you know, the existing biofeedbacks saved in it. Some programs, hold the clock, need 2 to 4 remotes in one program. They do not feed to one generator. Could you present how to do it? Well, you need more generators to run more things. If you want to loop the program for molecular weights, then what you do is you do what I showed you on the programs page and set repeat chain to 0. I've joined late, unfortunately, so I don't know if you've covered the subject already. I'm new to Spooky and don't know which device would be best for me. I want to use it for detox, parasite removal, actually for everything. Start with Generator X Pro, okay, and get the Generator X Pro portable kit and start playing around with that. See how far you can get. If you need more, then you can have more because there's always more technology out there. Start with Generator X Pro, okay? Why don't the remote sweeps load into the Generator X? Sweeps don't load into Generator X because Generator X cannot do sweeps when you've doing standalone. It can't do sweeps, it can't do feathering, it can't do wobble. So it's only your pure frequency going into the body through your Generator X if it's standalone mode. If it's running from your computer, then you can do an awful lot more. Does kill or heal settings in presets work well for running biofeedback results in remote mode? Yes, there are remote shells for killing and healing. Many programs kill pathogens have frequency outside of biofeedback. How can biofeedback pick these pathogens? Why not use the high frequency biofeedback scan, which is present for Generator X? Because then that will get things which are outside of the range as you describe. Okay. Okay, well, I can show you how to access the broad spectrum antibiotic again, if I can just bring up my Spooky. Stop share, back to share screen, bring Spooky up. Presets tab, okay, type in the word antibiotic, see what happens, let it think for a few moments. My computer's a bit slow as it's running so many things right now, and maybe it'll come up with it. There we go. The plasma one has got loads of frequencies in it. The remote one has got more. I think you got 10 in the contacts. You've got something like, I can't remember how many are in the plasma preset, but the remote one's got 100. So you might as well just run broad spectrum antibiotic on remotes anyway, as well as doing a few contact sessions on plasma sessions too, to try and get as much killing done as you possibly can. Okay. Can plasma run on Generator X? Easily. But you've got to have your Spooky Central with plasma tubes. What does the graph mean? I ignore it. It doesn't mean anything to me personally. But traditionally speaking, when it goes green, that means it's found something. If it goes red, it hasn't found something. But don't worry about that. What you want is the numbers which are returned to you once you've done your biofeedback. I'm running terrain on remote exclusively. Will it work as good as contacts? Define as good as. I mean, I've decided I'm going to be running terrain on remotes for rather a long time for me because I'm quite toxic, physically toxic. And so therefore it's good for me to just keep it going. But if I'm doing it on contacts, then I'll be going for a quicker experience. But running it in the background on remotes will actually help to just keep me more or less in that detox state, I guess. When you press scan, Spooky detects 10 frequencies which are more suitable for you. Does this mean that these 10 frequencies were found in the body when scanning with contact? Yes, it does. You can also change the number of frequencies that you are picking up from your biofeedback scan. And I will show you how, if my software is going to be compliant. Bear with me a second. Here we go. That's my software. Then we'll go back to presets, go back to there, click biofeedback, generator X, general biofeedback scan. So if I was to override that, to click on that, whatever, for the moment. At the bottom of in the biofeedback box, you'll see it says maximum hits defined. It currently says 10. You can add any number there. I often do 80, all right, which is like a 4-hour treatment of my own biofeedback things. Right, now onward and upward. My mother suffers from Parkinson's. One of her symptoms is all over body pain. Very good question. You could, when doing biofeedback, you can do that left to right side of the abdomen because that will cover most of the problem. When treatments, I would still stick with right wrist, left ankle to try and get as much done as is possible, because Parkinson's is not just in one particular organ, is it? Sure, there's a brain component to it, it's not just in one particular organ. Is the generator X more powerful for parasites? It's a more powerful biofeedback scanner for targeted regions. So if there's particular places where you know that these critters are swimming to, then you can target that area with your biofeedback and try and get the right frequencies for whatever is lurking there. All right, so it can be good for that. And of course, the frequencies are higher. You can also do the high frequency biofeedback scan. And so therefore your generator X is a better machine for doing your biofeedbacks and tackling the actual things which is making you sick in the first place. Where can I find more information than what is given in the notes of the presets? I guess ask people to see what their opinions are. Stick around on the Rife for Life forum and see what people have said about which particular presets they prefer and why. Can I run over the settings? What's the difference between repeat chain and repeat sequence and repeat program? To be honest, I only use repeat chain. I just use repeat chain because that's the only one that really matters to me, because I've got, let's say, five frequency sets making up a chain and I want them to loop. So that's the one which I adjust. Okay, if you, it says here, I've occasionally run over the cables with my wheelie office chair. Is there any way of knowing if they're still okay? I guess if it works, if you think they're broken, just get some more. Okay, if you're someone who's got a multimeter, maybe you can try and see if there's a current going through each cable. What's the difference between MW emulate and MW remove? Well, MW emulate will emulate that substance. MW remove will remove the effects of that substance. But you've got to think about whether you need to do the one or the other. On the presets program in a database, can you change the program like add wobble to the preset? That's done. I'll show you. Again, okay. Screen back to Spooky, click share. Whoops, nope. Right, so you got the settings tab. So once you're done, you've operated on the presets tab and the programs tab if necessary. You're then on the settings tab and you can adjust this. And there's lots of different forms of wobbles for you to choose. And some of these, I mean, I've used the Fibonacci one to get rid of a worm in my foot, which was quite an interesting experience because that was quite a big worm. It needed a lot of work done to it. But for my candida stuff, I tend to go 0.02 and 0.05 feathering. And for some of the smaller wormy type things, 0.2 or 0.5 for 8-stage wobbles if I see fit. Okay, and that seems to provide good positives. What generator is best coupled with scalar? Depends what you're trying to achieve. Generator X can do generator X things through scalar. XM will do XM things through scalar. I personally would recommend generator X above XM, but I would always say if you've got generator X, then it's worthwhile having more XMs around because they're cheaper to buy initially, and you can still do other things on them with remotes to try and keep yourself well, or indeed have another one with another laptop downstairs by your television, so you can do some contact methods whilst you're watching your reruns of God knows whatever it is that you prefer. You know, 18, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a couple of rubbish movies on Netflix, whatever it is you prefer, you know. Can you use feathering standalone with generator X? No, that's not possible. But you can run it through generator X when attached to your computer. When you get the generator X Pro, do you need the whole kit if you have the basic setup? Well, if you've already got things such as boosts and cables and remotes, then just get the generator. I mean, you've got the option to just buy the generator or to buy the rest of it as well. If you're starting out, get a kit, because that will get you familiar as to what you'll actually need when you're making fresh purchases in the future, which you will probably need to do if you expand your system. Is there a frequency that could prevent being bitten by mosquitoes? Oh, I have no idea. I don't know whether I could actually stop you from being bitten, but there are some who say that you can use the remote as a means of environmental control. If you can catch a dead mosquito from the swarm, then maybe you could put that into the remote and run something like what is it now? What is it we have to run for that? Environmental remote. Bird mites, dust mites, fleas, grain mites, household insects, mold, general purpose. There's nothing there specifically for mosquitoes. But if you could catch something, then I don't see why you shouldn't be able to run some variety of broad spectrum killing of everything thing on it. Is there another support email to contact with problems? They're usually good. Just try emailing through again, see what you can do, or communicate with them via chat, via the website, and that will be a good way of doing it. Okay, so we've now completed all of the question and answers sections, questions and answers, as far as I can tell, unless more have come in there. Cool. Can you imprint vegetable seeds in the remotes with a plant growth frequency, or do you have to use radionics machine? That sounds much more like a radionics operation. You might just be okay with one extension plate from Bacana Labs rather than necessarily the whole kit. But on the other hand, their equipment's good. I've got their stuff set up here, and I do imprinting for seeds myself that way. But I would use radionic equipment for radionic purposes. Okay. Right, so now I'm going to go through the webinar chat section, which has got rather a lot of information in it, rather a lot of questions. And I will try and go from the top to the bottom. And let's see how we can go. One moment, please. So far, everyone just saying hello. If I need to do a cancer healing, do I need generator X, one to detox, another to do the cancer program? You follow the cancer protocol, the DB cancer protocol, and follow it to the letter. Okay, you can do that via contacts, but it's better with plasma. I'm just trying to find the next good question. Will plasma or contact be effective to eradicate SHV2 virus? Again, right wrist, left ankle. Plasma would be better. Contact is still very, very, very good. When doing biofeedback, is it necessary to do a baseline? Not necessarily. But if you do a baseline, you get much more accuracy. I know it takes longer time, but you can still get better accuracy that way. I use a micro PC that has your function. Okay, voice. When your TENS pads are falling off your body, you need to change them. I change mine up once a week. And yes, I do use microporous tape to take them onto the body. I also put the microporous tape around where the needle fits onto the TENS cable, because then that can hold it in place when you're doing an overnight session. If only 3 of your tabs are showing, then there's a button which will say advanced, and you'll need to click on that. What does MW emulate do? It emulates drugs, medicines. If you're trying to do these things manual on a different frequency generator, yes, it would be 3 minutes each for each frequency. But on the other hand, if you're struggling and you need to get Rife and you need to get it quickly and easily, the things you need to add to your shopping cart is the most basic level: 1 XM generator, 1 boost, 1 TENS cable, a set of TENS pads or other contacts, things that you want, and maybe 1 remote. And if you just did that, that can start you on the process of weaning yourself off your function generator and bringing you into something which is actually much more effective, much more convenient, and it does just do its damn job. You know, it's how do I do sample saliva on my Spooky2 and Generator X Pro? You would use the sample digitizer, because that would then digitize the pathogens in your saliva, namely to get the frequency numbers of the pathogens in your saliva, which you can then treat your body with via contacts, plasma, whatever. Yes, you can do harmonic wobbles and feathering on plasma without the shadow of a doubt, dead easy. What do I use molecular weight for? Well, let me show you what I'm running it for now. I'm trying to improve my health and strength. So I've got 2 notorious anabolic steroids running on remote. I've got another 2 notorious anabolic steroids running on the other remote. And on the other remote, I've got both creatine and ephedrine. Now, when I started doing this treatment for myself, I could feel it. I could feel that my workout, which was the same workout I've been doing for years, was leading to more muscular development in the body just through running remotes. So my hypothesis is that if you're using molecular weight frequencies, which is like a drug to affect a system in the body, you can do that quite easily by remotes. If you get skin irritation from your TENS pads, try hand cylinders. Can you put several programs into a shell? Yeah, it's called running a chain. All right, you can have, I can create a chain like this, right? Start from the beginning, shell empty presets, contacts. Let's say I'm going killing, type in programs. In there, I can type in candida. It'll bring up some frequencies for candida. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. On the bottom, I can click here, remove duplicate frequencies, which reduces the total estimated runtime to 3 hours and 4 minutes. I can then take that treatment and run that twice a day and see what happens. If you are a candida sufferer, experiment with that, seriously, okay? Right. Can we say that? Yeah, you can use molecular weight frequency sets to send antibiotic effects to your body. I'm just looking for the next proper question. You get Spooky2 out of test mode to making sure your generator is attached to your computer and turned on prior to loading up the software. And if you're still in test mode, you can go to rescan devices under utils, and then that will literally go through all your USB ports and try and work out whether you've got generators connected to it. And then it'll all appear in your control tab. Okay. I think we've covered most of the questions which haven't been asked. Okay. Does being left-handed cause a need to change the right hand left angle contact? No, certainly not. You only ever treat with contact right wrist, left ankle because you're trying to avoid the heart. If you go left wrist, right ankle, your heart, which is an electrical organ and works through its own frequencies, all right, could be affected by the frequencies you're putting through it. And I certainly don't want you to, have an A&E or emergency room situation, okay? So right wrist, left ankle. Don't worry about being left-handed. It's not going to change your energy system so much that your heart's going to change its location in your body. Getting shocked is getting shocked normal? If you have low frequencies, your body will feel it. Okay, that's one of the reasons why in the settings tab, we click on reduce amplitude, which is down to the left-hand side, lower left-hand side. For lung cancer, do you put the TENS pads front and back or either side of the body? Depends where it is. I'm hoping I don't get lung cancer, but if I did have it, then I would probably go front and back on either side of the actual problem when doing the biofeedback scan. And I might treat other ways, taking into account what the protocol says in the PDF. Is contact the best way to get rid of esophageal candida? It's good, but you'd have your TENS pads right wrist, left ankle, because it won't just be in your esophagus. Candida sends its tendrils throughout all your organs, but right wrist, left ankle would actually help a lot. Plasma would knock it out more, especially with the phanatron bulb, the round phanatron bulb for targeted locations, because that's a good way of getting maximum pure like killing power on a particular spot and just like, die you evil thing, stuff going on there. So Spooky Central with Phanatron bulb would be very powerful for that and would really help you. But contact is still a very good way of keeping it under control and hopefully knocking it into the long grass alongside any other treatments you're on. Yeah, there will be a replay of this thing. All right. Yeah, look, Joan, you're going to be fine, okay? You will get your head around this without the shadow of a doubt. It's practice, it's practice, it's practice. Fake it until you make it. Carry on, carry on, carry on, and you'll be fine. Can a concentration of colloidal silver be verified? TDS doesn't work. I'm sure you could if you took it to a lab. I mean, if you've got a laser, I mean, I've got somewhere around the house one of those laser infrared thermometers, and I shine that through the colloidal silver water, and you'll see the little bits of silver glistening in the red laser light. Does Killer Heal setting in the presets work well for running biofeedback results in remote? Yes, absolutely. I'm having a hard time hooking up the boost to my Generator X Pro. Make sure the twiddly bits are lined up with the bits which stick out, okay? And just carry on gently being persistent with it. Do not hit it with a hammer, okay? It's not supposed to be that, that hard. It is fiddly. I'm going to be honest with you. Even with my delicate fingers, it is still rather fiddly, but it is still doable. In your opinion, plasma or scalar after the first kit? Depends if you're healing or killing. Scalar is a good healer and a good way of getting messages and information delivered to your body. Plasma is the nuclear bomb, okay? Plasma is the thing which just like sends out these pulses of intense energy. The purple light that comes out of the tube can be bright at night, okay? But if you think about another light which you can't see, which is 25 times brighter, that's what plasma is doing. So plasma is a very, very good direction to go in, and I seriously recommend that everyone does get Spooky Central, because that's saved my backside a fair number of times with a few serious issues I've had. Yeah, Generator X sweeps can only be done when your Generator X is connected to your computer and not when standalone. Right, here's a key question. Where can you connect contacts on a pregnant woman? I'm cautious about treating a pregnant woman. I'm not sure if I would want to, because it's all very like delicate down there. And I wouldn't want to try and give you some advice that's going to make something bad happen. Wait until after the pregnancy, then start treating yourself. I really would do it that way. It's not really recommended to treat for if you're breastfeeding, if you're pregnant sometimes. Maybe like during the times when you're not breastfeeding, then you can do your contact sessions. But if you're actually like with a child connected to you, you wouldn't want to do that. If you're pregnant, I'm just very, very cautious. I would probably advise you to be very cautious and probably not do it until your third trimester is up. I did a BFB and got autoimmune issue. I saved the results of the BFB. I want to run remote on this save BFB. Which mode should I run for the autoimmune, killing or healing? Thank you. You can run either. Both killing and healing will kill pathogens. Killing will kill a little more, it's more effective, but on the other hand, maybe just go for healing if you're unsure. I mean, the healing shell is the one you use if you're unsure. Do the parasite kill programs include eggs? Some of them are for eggs, some of them are not. The more you work with your biofeedbacks as well as your existing frequency sets, the more you can get the progress you require. Well, an idiot can use it because I started this with a serious case of brain fog, and I just watched lots of Spooky2 videos until it clicked. And I read lots of things until it clicked. And I practiced until it clicked. So if you're anxious, get yourself a small kit, the little XM kit, play around with that, doing what's shown in the videos, just copy what other people do, and after a while, your brain will click, okay? If the electricity goes off in the middle of a train protocol, how can I resume at the same spot when I restart everything? You set up your terrain as normal, then you go down through the steps and you click on the step you want, and it'll start from there. If there is a program in the database and I'd like to add this wobble to it or change it, is this possible? Yes, you do that in the settings page. One moment, please. Let's get a swig of water. Should we periodically reload the software for upgrades? You can just check the website. I mean, the website will show you when there's going to be an upgraded bit of software, and you can just download and upgrade. In the display options of the control panel, can you turn off the screen after a period of time? I set mine for 5 minutes, saves the monitor and allows it to run at night. Yeah, you can do that too. I prefer to use Rubylith on my screen, so if I need to get to my computer in the dead of the night, I can do it, and I'm not taking blue light. I've only got the red light, which is what you need at night. Of course, you can use Plasma and Generator X. It's very good for that. If you just got your Rife system, do as much Googling under the term Spooky2, okay? And start with presets, how to run presets, and just do that. Just dedicate yourself, give yourself modules, okay? Your first module is learn everything about presets. Your second module is learn everything about programs. Then you can go on to everything about biofeedback and so on and so forth, and just do it one step at a time. Yes, there is a lot to learn, okay? But remember, just like with a mountain bike, which has got like 150 gears, you're only going to use 17 of them, right? So that's why you do your learning, so you can work out which of those 100 odd gears is actually right for you. Okay, I really think we've gone through nearly, right, if I have missed out on your question, then please forgive me. I think I've done nearly everything. All right, well, harmonics and subharmonics are frequencies which are outside of the specific one that you've chosen. That's all you really need to know. And therefore, they can still do extra things. Someone's given me a comment saying my skin looks nice and healthy. Well, thank you. I do a lot on myself. Thank you. You can, Spooky2 is very good with shipping. I must point that out for you. So yes, you can get it shipped to the USA dead easy because they will just get it sent to you. Just order it from the website and it will come to you. They're in China, I'm in the UK. The quickest delivery I had was in 4 days. The longest delivery was about 2 weeks. All right, so yeah, it can be done. Where to place contacts for throat candida, right wrist, left ankle. And I would use a feather, not a wobble, because feathering is for microbes, in my opinion, and wobbles is for squiggly, bigger things. Right, when do you use DNA frequencies? There are frequency sets in the programs tab, which you can search for, and it will have DNA in its name, all right? And that means it's the frequency for the actual DNA of that microbe or of that thing. So you're attacking it in a very specific way, and that's why I use the DNA shell for it. You can run sweeps on a remote. You just got to question why, you know, whether that's the right method for you. I've never had a negative reaction, but I have had Herxheimer reactions, which is common when you're going through killing of things. Can you copy the BFB change from one computer to another? You know, I've never tried. But there is an answer there that's been given by our delightful co-host there. Glad you're enjoying the presentation. When I go through DB for cancer, why does it not killing, it does entrainment? Just follow the protocol as it's described in the DB protocol. How would we connect several generators to one laptop? Okay, stop share. Where did I put it? I had it, there we go. You use one of these things. This is a USB bar with 10 USBs on it, okay? If your computer's memory is good enough, its processing power is good enough, you can get 10 generators on this, like 1 generator X and 9 XMs. My rubbish little laptops aren't that good, so I've just got a handful of laptops and each one's running about 2 or 3 generators, and that's the way in which I've chosen to do it. Right. Right, I think that's pretty much everything. Oh, just a couple more coming in. Oh, I really think that's pretty much all for today. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation.